We're gonna hit it, man. It's gonna happen at some point. There's going to be a boiling point. And in the year of 2024, December 2024, heading into 2025, maybe this becomes the entire overarching theme of 2025 for the Vancouver Canucks. But with the way things are shaping up right now, somebody's gonna get traded. And I wanted to go over the Elias Pettersson comments to introduce this topic into this video, because yesterday, after the Canucks lost against the Ottawa Senators in overtime, this unfortunately was posted and clipped and recorded after I recorded the post-game video. In fact, if you go over to the post-game video, it's right here. JT Miller actively hurting the Vancouver Canucks with his terrible back-checking and lackluster defensive play. But this video was recorded, like, in the middle of this interview going on, and thus we didn't actually cover it, so we're covering it now in the morning show, because yesterday, the Hockey Night in Canada segment had a very misleading way to represent the Elias Pettersson comments, because they had Ron McLean, Kevin Bieksa, you got Rick Bowness out there, and Friedman doing their bits, you know, they're talking about the game, doing the post-game coverage, and then they say this: let's head over to Elias Pettersson. And the very first question that pops up is the question as to whether or not there's a rift with JT Miller. To which PD then replies, I don't know why people are still trying to make crap up, and he doesn't say crap, he says the other word that rhymes with it. And then you had yourselves another reporter that asks, so there isn't a rift. And then Pettersson looks so upset, and he's like, oh my god. He shrugs, and then he asks any more questions, and then he leaves the interview. Now, the interesting thing is, this was all they showed on Hockey Night in Canada. They did this, and then they cut over to this. And so if you're watching the program, it looks really, really bad. Like, oh wow, that's all that we got out of Pettersson? That's the only thing that was posted? And to help us out with the truth of the matter, because I think it's actually important to acknowledge this, let's go over some comments made by this guy in the mask right here on the left. It's Daniel Wagner, pass it to Bulis, because on the Canucks subreddit, this same video clip was posted last night, and you had yourselves Daniel Wagner go out there and clarify what actually went down. Here's the transcription. I don't know why people are still trying to make crap up, excuse my language, but that's my response. So it hasn't been distracting you, PJ said? Oh my god. Let's go over to Daniel Wagner and his post over here. Where is it? Here it is. This looks way worse than it actually was, to be clear. Hockey Night in Canada cut to the interview a minute through after Pettersson had already been asked other questions about the game and his performance. This segment, where he was talking about JT Miller, was not the entirety of the interview. Pettersson didn't storm off because of the questions he was asked. He left the media scrum because the media didn't have any more questions. Source, I'm the guy in the mask and the Christmas sweater. So yeah, official Daniel Wagner going out here and posting this. There was a reply, who was it that asked that question at the end? It was Patrick Johnston. I think it was a fair response. The easy answer would have been, no, it's not a distraction. We already know PD doesn't like to engage in that kind of talk. He answered the first time, so why did PJ feel the need to press him further? I get that it's your guy's job and all, but if PD's saying people are just making crap up and then yelling back, read the room, as he's walking down the hall, obviously he is sick of this crap. And yes, he did go out there and say that at the end. Read the room was the comment that he had as he walked away. He angrily walked away from the entire thing here after finishing up that interview. So you can kind of see it, man. Elias Pettersson is not happy with the way the media is stirring all this stuff up. And to be fair, I mean, I can understand the frustration. I'm not going to say that it's totally 100% his responsibility to address situations like this, especially since earlier that same morning we had already seen Tocchet and Hughes, the captain and the coach, discuss these same ideas in their interviews, so it's not necessarily PD's responsibility to give the most detailed, intricate answer after already saying that there's nothing going on. Now, whether or not he understood that Tocchet and Hughes already confirmed that there was some sort of a rift, who really knows? Maybe that's something that Tocchet probably should have been able to articulate. thus preparing PD for the inevitable question about it, but you can tell that the guy is frustrated. It's very obvious to see why, especially when you consider some of the other crap that we had talked about in yesterday's video, like how JT Miller was potentially responsible for 1, 2, or maybe even 3 goals if you wanted to say. And I mean goals against. With this in mind, let's go out there and read some extra tweets, shall we? This was posted by Wyatt Arndt after the game yesterday. To be fair, Rick Tocchet told the media to talk to Elias Pettersson. My take is that the Vancouver Canucks have bungled their handling of this EP40 and JT Miller situation in so many ways. This story has ballooned into a monster that is out of control at this point. And then we had ourselves some other tweets here. I'm genuinely sick of people defending Miller. At least Pettersson defends another opponent. Miller is too busy covering the ghost of Joe Malone, apparently. And Wyatt went out there and said this: don't let JT Miller's points tonight detract from the fact that his defensive efforts have resorted back to yelling at Colin Delia levels. Brutal effort on that short-handed goal against. Wasn't a great save either. 4 goals and 15 shots ain't it. Kevin hasn't had a banner night, that's for sure. And I was actually talking to a friend of mine last night, debating whether or not the lazy Miller has come back from 22-23, that season a while ago with Bruce Boudreau, where Miller was lazy, he was swearing at everybody, he was not really good, he was not effective defensively. Sure, he got points, but the back check was non-existent from this guy. It's almost like we are getting fully back to that level of JT Miller play. And now, in 2024, with all this narrative going around with Elias Pettersson struggling at the same time, it's really bringing everybody else back down. Because at the very least, when Miller had that crap season in 22-23, which I guess you can say wasn't even too crappy because he was still an 80-point guy, but still, when Miller had, let's try to pull it up here, when he had this season down here, 2022-2023, 81 games played flat and 82 points, Elias Pettersson had a 100-point year in this season, so it was okay. It was like, okay, Pettersson is the guy, he is the leader points-wise on this team, he is the #1 player, and that's okay, because Miller is taking a back seat, and he's not necessarily his best, but he is still there, and he's contributing. Now, Elias Pettersson isn't contributing either. It's Quinn Hughes who leads the Canucks in 24-25 by a very significant margin. He's got 40 points to Elias Pettersson and Connor Garland's 26 each. He has a 14-point lead on the second-place point guy. That's ridiculous. And now we have even more tweets going out there and saying this: Pettersson hasn't been close to good enough. This crap is a mess, but his floor is so much higher than Miller's because of how good he is defensively. Bad Miller actively loses you games. Bad PD doesn't win them. And I'll agree 100% with this tweet over here, because Miller, when he is like at his worst, he is a detriment to the team. He hurts the team. He gives the opponents very good scoring opportunities. At the very least, Pettersson's bad is just unproductive. Casuals can't grasp this. They only look at the points totals. The Canucks will try to keep both, but if they have to make a decision, it's an obvious one. One player is 26, the other will be 32 in a couple of months, and he has back and neck issues. If everything goes right, he has 2 to 3 peak years left. Picking Miller over Pettersson would be a fireable offense, and this tweet was greeted with a whole bunch of replies and controversy, which we're going to dive into here as well. It seems more likely that Pettersson will continue to decline. Miller is statistically an anomaly by showing his prime right now, and when he's bad, he will lose you games and he's one-dimensional. Pettersson is entering his prime years and fits more in line with the core age and is a proven good two-way player, who draws penalties and he won't lose you games. Picking Miller over EP would just greenlight another rebuild. I would still do it. I'm so checked out in this team right now. JT has a no-trade clause. Pettersson doesn't until next year. This is going to be ridiculous. And with Elliot Friedman speaking out on Saturday headlines yesterday that the team is trying to fully allow these guys to breathe and get back up to form, but if they're not able to do that, then something might need to happen, it seems like a trade is not a 0% chance here. And is that going to be JT Miller? Who really knows? So I want you to let me know your thoughts in the comment section below about all of this stuff going on with Vancouver, Elias Pettersson, JT. I feel like I needed to make this video because we didn't address this in yesterday's post-game commentary, but hey, better late than never, right? And by late, I mean like 12 hours late, so it's maybe not too bad, but either way, let me know your thoughts in the comment section below about the Canucks. Do you see a Miller trade coming soon? Do you see Pettersson getting traded soon, or what? What do you think is going to happen? I hope you enjoyed this video. 9. And bye.